Thank you and welcome to another episode of Geek USA, an all things nerd podcast where the Trekkie meets the Techie. My name is James.
And my name is Carl.
And this week we're going to be discussing the groundbreaking television series 24.
24 premiered November 6th of 2001 and ended May 24th of 2010. It ran for 9 seasons and spawned 1 film. It wasn't the first television series to feature events occurring in real time, but it has been the most popular. The show follows Jack Bauer, an agent with the aptly named Counter-Terrorism Unit. Each season is essentially Jack doing everything and anything he can to get the job done. On the surface, it's a pretty basic plot, but in its execution, it turned out to be one of television's biggest game changers and greatest dramas. It spawned only one spin-off, 24 Legacy, which premiered February 5th, 2017.
All right, Carl, so this week we're going to be talking about the TV show 24.
Yes.
So kind of, why don't you introduce this topic and then we'll kind of talk about what brought us to doing this.
Yeah, 24. It's a very popular show. It's
stupid
kind of
popular.
Stupid, yeah, stupid popular. It was really popular. I knew these 2 guys, right, when I worked at an Arby's back in the day, and they were super into it, and I was not. I didn't even see any of it, and they talked about it every day, and I didn't see an episode of the show until like last year, and it turns out I found out why it was stupid popular, because the show is awesome, and so I just started watching it, and you haven't seen it, so we thought that maybe we, just like kind of we did with The Walking Dead, we do like an episode here where we introduce one of us to a show that they haven't seen before. And in this case, it's going to be me talking about 24 with you.
And so I did, this morning I sat down and I watched the very first 24 episode. Holy crap, it took me back. I was aware of the show peripherally, in my early 20s because it was one of the biggest things on television. God knows how I didn't watch it. It must have just been on whatever night I was working. But the question that I'm left with upon finishing this is, should I continue? And I guess that's what we're going to kind of explore here now.
Yeah.
And I will be honest with you, my initial thought on this opener is, holy crap, this show's great. I want to keep watching it. And the only reason I didn't is because for the purpose of this podcast, I kind of felt like we should, I shouldn't dive too far down the rabbit hole, but cannot believe that in 15 years, I could not believe this show has been out, premiered, and been off the air for as long as it has. It's time flies, man. So
yeah.
why don't you give me the premise of the show? I kind of figured out from the beginning that, all right, I mean, I know Kiefer Sutherland plays Jack Bauer. He's like part of our like cultural vernacular, but I had no idea who Jack Bauer was. I think I thought he was the president or something. No, much cooler. He's like a Secret Service-y guy. And, within 5 minutes of the episode, a guy comes into the room and says, "Don't trust anybody." And he's like, huh. And it was cool, man. He's an interesting actor. So give me the premise of this and kind of maybe talk me through the, show and its standout characters.
Right. So the premise of this show, I'm gonna give you the average Joe version of the premise of this show. The premise of this show is we're gonna take a guy who is practically a superhero, and we're gonna put him into the worst day of his life, and that's gonna be a whole season. And then the next season, we're gonna try to see, okay, how can we make the next worst day of his life ever? And we're going to do that over and over again. Everything from shooting your boss in the leg to shooting your boss in the head and everything in between. We're just going to put this guy through a roller coaster of crap. And the whole time, he is going to be dealing with counterterrorism, espionage, and, saving presidents and, all that crazy stuff. I guess more of the TV version of the show is, Jack Bauer works for CTU, which stands for Counterterrorism Unit. And in this show, it's an agency. It's kind of a stupid name because, you figure the CIA or the FBI has a counterterrorism unit, not like a whole agency called Counterterrorism Unit. But they skimped on the creativity there. But he works for this agency, and that's what they do is counterterrorism. And the show just does a really good job of taking events in real time over the course of an hour. Not the first show to do it, not the only one to do it, but probably the one that's the most memorable. And they just take every minute. They kind of include commercial breaks, in each episode as time passing. But yeah, just minute to minute. One episode is an hour in the day. There's 24 episodes in a season, and each season follows that one day.
I remember somebody talking to somebody and being like, "What's the show about?" and them saying that, and I was like, "That sounds kind of clever, but I wonder if that works." And I will tell you from this first episode, like, it works. I didn't realize how tethered the clock was going to be to the show, and I think it's to great effect. The use of split screens and all of that kind of really like immersing you in the moment by moment that's happening, which was good. I mean, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, it sounds kind of gimmicky. And then when I first saw the show, I'm like, okay, this is gonna. Yeah, and when I first saw the show, I'm like, oh, this is gonna get old in about half a season. And no, now like during my day, between my lunch breaks and everything, I kind of hear the clock counting down before I get back to my work shift and everything. So yeah, it worked really well. And you're right, they did the split screen thing again, very gimmicky. You think you get lost in that, but no, they did a really good job.
We're going to run down kind of like a little history in a second here, but before that, I want to ask you a question. And before said question, I want to say, spoiler alert, the obligatory, unlike most other podcasts, but like all of our other episodes, we just talk about whatever, and we assume that if you're listening to this, you've seen the show because it came out 16 years ago. So if you haven't for some reason, you decided I want to watch 24, but before I want to watch 24, I'm going to listen to Jim and Carl's take on it. God bless you, but don't, because we're going to spoil the whole damn thing.
We are, yeah. This is I think here at Geek USA, I think we get to the point where we will spoil everything because we've seen it, and then all we want to do is talk about what we just saw, and it's just how we do everything. So yeah, I very much a spoiler alert. Watch the show first and then come back and listen, and then we'll just blow your mind. Actually, you know what, we're going to talk about so much crap you're going to forget like 90% of what we talked to you about anyway. So yeah, just listen, it'll be fun.
Is this this idea of like kind of tethered to the clock, do they hold true to that throughout the entire series?
The whole thing, including the new one, including the 24 Legacy, the new one that just started running. They do the same thing.
Well, and so that brings up kind of a good point too. We should touch upon that. The reason we're doing this podcast, or what brought it up, is you asked me, if I had seen it, and it's all because of this 24 Legacy. So that has just started, and I think we're going to kind of give our thoughts on that at the end. But from my basic understanding, no cast was retained, so it's a completely new look at this idea. But I'm assuming in the same kind of universe and timeline and all of that.
Yeah. It's not like an alternate universe or something. It involves the CTU agency, and it involves a different person heading it. Kiefer's none of the other cast is involved, and Legacy follows a. Excuse me. Legacy follows an Army Ranger, right? A former Army Ranger who, in regards to their last mission, him and his team, and they had this like last secret mission. In regards to that, is now under attack, being followed, being hunted by the terrorist group that their last mission overseas undertook. And so it looks, and I've only seen the first 2 episodes, but it looks to me like a cat and mouse game between our Army Ranger, his name's Eric Carter, he's played by a guy named Corey Hawkins, between him, the former head of CTU, which is a woman he trusts who put that mission together. Her name is Miranda. Her name is Rebecca Ingram. She is played by a woman named Miranda Otto, and the terrorists. And, they're looking for information, they're looking for a device, they're looking for all this stuff. And again, like every episode of 24, it's going to balloon into a bajillion other things. But it looks interesting. It looks really good. It focuses on an Army Ranger, where in the regular 24, Kiefer Sutherland, he's a counter-terrorist agent. He's he's like you can think of him like he works for the CIA, only a different agency. So very different skill set, but looks amazing. So I'm excited to see more of it.
Well, I want to take a moment now and kind of, we're going to talk about the seasons one by one, but before we do that, I want to run through and kind of give a brief history on the show. The cool thing about 24 is that it took me back to a time when I was, I was 20 years old at the time when the show came on the air. It was November 6, 2001, so right after the events of September 11th. And I think that looking back now with the benefit of perspective, a pretty ballsy move to have this kind of show with this kind of subject matter in the wake of that kind of event. Carl, why don't you do me a favor, and you're a little bit more familiar with kind of the show and, its place in history. Why don't you run through kind of, the history and give us a snapshot of 24 looking back?
Yeah, so kind of a snapshot of it looking back. So it runs from November of 2001 and it all the way through, if we're talking like the regular, I think like the regular, no, if we include the 12 episode half a season they did, it went through 2014, but of course there was a gap in there. I think the last like full official season was in May of 2010 is when it ended. So you're talking, a good 8 years, little somewhere between 8 and 9 years, of what was constantly, and I heard about it, constantly lauded as like this great television show. And following all sorts of different, plots that the United States can find themselves in like the worst case scenarios over and over and over again. There was, they did a movie, which was kind of like it sat between two seasons. So that was in 2008, which ultimately wasn't bad. And then it was in 2014, they decided to kind of come back with half a season. So I guess half of a day. It's still called 24 and not 12. I'm sorry. I'm actually at like halfway through that. And so I don't know how it all works out yet, but that's pretty much the kind of like a snapshot of how it played out over time. I thought that if I'm not mistaken, that they were trying to get that aired earlier, but I thought that they held off a little bit because of September 11th. But I thought that was...
Yeah, I mean, that was... the first thing I thought, I was watching it and I was thinking to myself, like, all right, obviously this wasn't produced in 6 weeks, but holy crap, like what a relevant subject matter for the time period. And it was interesting because that show, I mean, it's still on the top of a lot of lists, but I mean, more than one writer has said that that's the best show on television ever. And that it changed the game, and I'm kind of kicking myself that, I feel like I've gotten most of the big ones in, be it Cheers or Sopranos or MASH or whatever. I think we're both kind of, we're geeks, man. We love television and movies, but this one is, I cannot believe that I've never sat down and watched this. Like, I don't have a good excuse. The only thing I wanted to ask you about, in addition, I'm kind of looking through some notes here, and you wrote, everyone dies. What does that mean?
All right. So if you were unfortunate enough to know Jack Bauer,
should I stop? Is this like don't watch the show because everybody dies, or is it like do watch the show because everybody dies?
You know what? I'm gonna walk you through that a little bit of a different way. I think I wanted your, before we kind of got too heavy into this, I really wanted your initial thoughts of that first episode. So what are your initial thoughts of the episode? Ultimately, what do you think about some of the characters you saw, and what would you think? Like, what would you think this first season is ultimately going to be about, and what do you think, like, with the direction that it would go? That was 6 questions in one.
The goal of the pilot being to keep me watching succeeded. It's done. We're going to plow through this. I've already decided. I love kind of like, the whole idea of having to like drive out the snake in the bush, like who among us is the is the bad guy here. And I'm assuming like you already kind of like you're watching this episode and it like you get a feeling that like this one character isn't vibing with Jack Bauer, so like maybe it's him, or maybe it's not him. It's probably not him. Maybe it's diversion. Just clever storytelling. What I really liked about the show, to be honest with you, is I like how we jump right in, and the episode is consistently tethered back to like this thing that's going on with his daughter running away from home, and him and his recently reunited like sort of ex-wife, maybe ex-wife. So he's distracted, and I don't know, man. It was well done. It's a really good, interesting idea. Like I said, the whole idea of like kind of mirroring it second for second with real time. I'm probably sounding like an idiot because everybody's like, duh, duh. No. But like seriously, like it was done way more effectively. I thought it was a gimmick, and I'm like, nope, this works. And I like Kiefer Sutherland, so that's the other thing I'm kind of kicking myself is I'm realizing as I'm watching this that this is probably like his peak. I'm sure most people are going to say like, oh no, this was the role that was meant for Kiefer Sutherland, and I'm like, being a fan of his movies, like I'm instantly hooked. So
well, who would you say, who is, like, out of all the characters so far, like, is it besides Jack, because that's an easy one, is there anybody that stands out that this character could be cool, this guy could be the worst or whatever? Does anybody stand out to you so far?
I can't remember the gentleman's name, but the guy who plays like the hopeful president, that guy's an awesome actor. So I'm hoping he's...
Oh, Pedro Serrano? Yeah, that guy rocks.
Yes, he's great. I like the casting choice for the wife. I'm interested to see.
Oh, you have no idea how good of an actress she is. She really opens.
Well,
up.
and I mean, it almost you have to have that balance. So again, I was expecting it to be kind of like a paint by numbers, Black Ops type something political show, and instead it's like no, it's this kind of like it has this dichotomy that I'm assuming is going to carry through with this guy who, like you said, is you're witnessing the worst day of his life up to that point, which is a really awesome way to put it.
Oh, you don't even know. So let me tell you, everybody in that first episode either except for his daughter, either dies or goes to prison.
Spoiler.
And well, Kiefer doesn't do either. Well, he kind of does, but eventually he goes to Africa. Yeah, everybody. And like, I know that like you ran through this when we did the Walking Dead one. You're like, nope, he dies, and I kind of expected it because of it's a zombie show, right? Like, no, like everybody, like something, even the good guy, something, if you know Jack Bauer, if you were unfortunate enough to know Jack Bauer, something jacked up was going to happen to you, or you're doing something jacked up and it's going to bite you in the rear, because Jack finds everybody and Jack kills everybody or saves everybody, depending on what category you're in. So to give you a breakdown, I don't want to give you too much of a breakdown of everybody. Some standout characters I think you should pay attention to is the actress Penny Johnson Gerald, who plays Mrs. Palmer, the president's Sherry Palmer, the president's wife. Holy crap,
she was good.
She might be like one of the best actresses in the whole show. It's a shame because you're not going to see her. The other character who's in the second most episodes of 24, but so the second most compared to Kiefer, is a woman, and her character's name is Chloe O'Brien. I am drawing the biggest blank on her name. Mary Lynn, I can't pronounce her last name. It's Mary Lynn Raskub, something like that. She's fantastic. She plays an analyst, and she is like she's pretty much there for like the rest of the whole thing going forward and after season 3. She's like the only other like main character that like I guess like lives or doesn't like permanently end up in prison or something. But yeah, so that's pretty much the show. It's pretty much, if you want to think about it an alternate way, 24 is a show about a guy who just likes to ruin the life of everybody he knows because he's got to do the greater good, and fuck you.
That is the soundbite for the podcast. So let's kind of dig in a little deeper. You kind of gave me a really good snapshot, and I'm feeling like I got a better grip on what this is going to be about. But, the second thing I noticed when I was kind of doing some research for this was, holy crap, this was on the air a long time. So why don't we take a minute and kind of go through season by season, and I'll give you like a little synopsis to kind of jog your memory, and maybe you'll give me your thoughts on, not only like the season and what happened, but also like how that season stacks up against the, greater whole. So Season 1, and the writing credit is going to go to Wikipedia on this, guys. Season 1 begins at midnight on the day of the California presidential primary. Jack Bauer's protocol is to protect Senator David Palmer from an assassination plot and rescue his own family from those responsible, who seek retribution for Jack and Palmer's involvement with a covert American mission in the Balkans. So hit me with this one. Is season 1, some shows it's the peak, other shows it's just the beginning. It sounds like from what I've read, this is just the beginning.
Yes, very much just the beginning. It introduces us to President Palmer. All right. Damn it, ruined it already. Future President Palmer, cat's out of the bag. He wins the election. Yeah. There's some things to really look out for in the show. You grow to really the guy Mason, the guy that Jack shoots in the leg, right? Right. That was the first episode. You think that guy's a douchebag now. Oh man, he grows into be like the douchebag of the century. And then eventually in this whole season, that's what you're going to think. Palmer, you're like, that dude's awesome. You're going to look at President Palmer and you'll be like, I just wish you were my president forever. Like, I wish you were the king of the United States. Great character, well acted, well written. His wife, you're going to grow to be like, you are the craziest bee with an itch I've ever seen on TV, and I'm genuinely afraid of her. Like, she is so scary, she practically qualifies as a movie monster. No joke. You'll see what I mean. It's great. And Jack, when the show opens, you're like, okay, regular family guy, check. Has kind of an intense job, check. Did he just shoot his boss in the leg? What?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that can't get any crazy. No, it gets crazier, man. He sends that roller coaster over the hill. Dude does not look back. It's insane. So you really get a good look at exactly how hinged and unhinged Jack Bauer is when he's trying to kind of unveil exactly what the heck is going on in this season. And don't count out his daughter, Kim. She, first off, I forgot the actress's name that plays her. We're going over too much stuff and my brain can't keep up. She does a fantastic job in this show too. And as a character, her role in this is immense. So like most seasons of this show, you eventually find out that there's 3 plots going on kind of all at once, only it's not hard to follow. And and not in a cheesy way and not in an expected way. Keeps you looking at your left hand, but the surprise comes out of your right hand. It's good. You're gonna like that one. If you watch the whole thing, and I recommend that you do, it is the most awesome roller coaster. And it's got the guy from the show Sentinel that kind of sucked, but I kind of liked watching.
I thought it was pretty cool that already in this first episode we're getting hints of this is a big deal. We've got an African American that could potentially be president. We've got to keep him safe. And then obviously there's all these undercurrents, and it's kind of cool to look back and be like, yeah, we got there. We didn't get there right away, but in 8 short years we were going to have this come to life, and that was kind of a cool you watch shows from the past, and sometimes it's kind of nice to see the progress you've made, and sometimes you can't see the progress. And in this show, it's kind of there was that little hint of the political climate does get to a point where we're okay with that, and I think that says something. I also thought that I was exactly what you said. I was worried. Sometimes I feel like shows Lost and other shows can sometimes get too clever for their own good with plots and subplots and plots that don't go anywhere, and kind of the idea that as a storytelling device I'm going to deceive you or try to lead you to different conclusions. A little bit of that's okay. It's always good to be challenged, but like a video game that's going to be a classic, it needs to be fun. And something can't be fun if it's challenging you at all seconds. And so I liked, and I hope it continues, that it felt like this show was going to challenge me, but in a good way. It's not like playing basketball against Michael Jordan where you just feel stupid. It's like playing basketball against your brother where you almost have a shot, it's fun. And so that leads us to season 2. Which, set 18 months later, begins at 8 a.m. Jack must stop a nuclear bomb from detonating in L.A. Then President David Palmer, in proving who is responsible for the threat and avoid war between the U.S. and 3 Middle Eastern countries, then assist President Palmer in doing all that. So the first thing I noticed when I was kind of doing some research for this is that there's more than 12 months apart, the seasons that aired 12 months apart. So do we end up getting into the future? How does that work?
What do you mean? Like, do we end up like getting into like future dates other than like where we're at?
Yeah,
now?
I mean, because like if you add it up, season 2, then season 3 is 3 years after that. Season 4 is 18 months after that. Season 5 is 18.
Oh yeah, you know what? They never really. I guess they never really tell you what
When you
year
end
they're
up
in,
becoming
so,
like
you know.
the show starts in 2001. By the end of season 6, like the way I added it up, you're like in 2015. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure, and then yeah, well, they never really talk about what year they're in, so I guess
Gotcha.
you
Okay,
know,
it doesn't really
you
matter.
can kind of suspend disbelief with, yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's not really like it. It always feels like the current day and age anyway. I mean, it's counter. I mean, we've been enamored since the show came out, since 2011. The country has been either enamored with needing information about terrorist activities around the globe. It's been on the news. It's on everybody's noggin. So it's not like you ever get lost. Like, oh, this really feels like it's a different time. It's like, no, it just kind of feels like today.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so season 2, you're talking 18 months. Season 2 would eventually introduce us to, I guess, Jack's first. Oh God, I don't want to tell you, but I want to tell you.
Hit me with it, man.
It introduces.
Don't hold back.
All right, well. I tell you, everybody in season 1 either ends up dead or in prison. So season 2, you eventually get to see there is a love interest that Jack Bauer grows to get want to get close to nearer to the end of it. Mason, you grow to know is still kind of a douchebag, but by the end of the show, you're like, you're about to die, so I'm kind of a little sympathetic to you. I mean, and it kind of feels like a sequel to a show because David Palmer's still the president, and everything like that. But it's solid. This is one of those shows where it's like, season 5 was probably the best. 4 is probably the second best. 3, then 2, then 1. But it's like you're talking the difference between like 11 and like 10.9 and 10.8 going down the road. Like they're all intense.
So it's a slow build,
and this
each season.
Oh, it's and it's good. Like every season up through maybe 5 and 6 were like top of their game. This really grows the character of Almeida pretty good. You definitely start getting like, I like this guy. I like him with Jack. They're awesome. And it explores more terrorism. It explores, I think it's like this one explores like a plot to detonate a nuclear weapon. So it's pretty heavy. And again, it's another race against the clock. Another worst day ever for Jack Bauer. If you thought that that could happen, I don't think no. Some people die here too. So yeah, eventually everybody here in this season also winds up either dead or in prison for the most part. And eventually, excellent though. I can't. Most people would probably put this out of the first 5 seasons, maybe like the second on their list. It's probably like the second to the bottom. It's probably like my second favorite or third favorite season. I thought this one was pretty intense. I'm in the minority on that one, but I like Jack recovering from like the first day. 18 months later, he's a little estranged from his daughter, his wife. I'm gonna blow your mind. His wife's dead. It's crazy, so. To me, like his character, like when the season starts, he's this like shell of a dejected human being, just trying to do as much right in the world as he can and not screw anything else up. And he didn't screw anything up. He saves the day, and he's going to do it again. So, again, excellent season. You'll be very satisfied if you get to it.
Is each season like its own self-contained like vibe and look and feel, or do they kind of keep? In terms of like the graphics and like cinematography, do they kind of keep a similar, aesthetic throughout the show? Like, how does that work?
Similar aesthetic for CTU for the most part. Technology grows and changes. I mean, you saw like the Macs they were using in that first one,
yes,
obviously.
Yeah.
Technology grows a little bit. CTU though does remain mostly very, very similar in the vernaculars that they use, like the verbiage about the technology. In the most part, it does retain a very similar look though. Very, very gritty and raw, kind of dry. The cinematography is going to be very Los Angeles. You know what I mean? So, as it still takes place in the same city.
So that brings us to season 3, which is set 3 years later. It begins at 1 p.m. Jack must infiltrate a Mexican drug cartel. Well, I knew this was coming at some point. To seize a deadly virus being marketed underground. President Palmer must deal with the potential scandal which could cost him his presidency. So is this the zombie virus, and is this what spawns The Walking Dead? Did I just need to watch the show to find that out?
No, it's not like a zombie virus, and you will hold on one moment here, because I got lost in my notes. All right. They made a video game between season 2 and 3. I didn't even know that.
PS2.
All right, so yeah, so we get Zachary Quinto in this season, and again, Zachary Quinto rocks. I can't say enough good things about him. Bear with me here. We get introduced to Chloe O'Brien. This is probably my favorite season because, again, we grow to love Tony Almeida even more than like we could have, and he just continues to grow in here. I can't even describe to you Chloe O'Brien. Like, she is like the most annoying like person that you want to see in the show over and over again. I'm having a hard time because if you worked with this person, you would want to like forget all your morals about being a gentleman and a man, and you would want to punch her in the face so hard. But you're watching and you're like, I want you to punch everybody else in the face so hard. She's awesome. You're gonna love her. Yeah, Kim Bauer actually is working at C2 as an analyst at this one. And Tony Almeida, and he's dating one of the other people working there, and they have this awesome like struggle between their relationship and national security, and maybe going off the rails and things like that. Jack Bauer finally kills Nina from the first season, and he kills his boss's boss. So again, don't know Jack Bauer. He's a horrible human being to know, but he killed it. And his boss's boss was a good guy. He wouldn't even pull a Mason, man. His boss's boss, Ryan Chappelle, maybe it's his direct boss this time. He kills this guy named Chappelle because he has to, because it's just one of the demands and there's no way around it. Takes him to a train yard, shoots him in the head. Completely straight face. So again, huge roller coaster. But yeah, so it's not like we're not talking about like a zombie virus here. In fact, I'm having a hard time struggling to remember exactly what this virus does. I thought it was a virus about like security infrastructure or something like that.
So it was merely a plot device, not a.
No. It is no. It is a virus. It's like it's an infection virus. What the hell was this virus? Maybe it was a zombie virus.
I don't know, man.
I think
I feel like
I think I need to give over a geek card because I'm forgetting major plot points about how this awesome season here.
It was like 15 years ago. It's okay.
Yeah.
So,
well, I saw it maybe like a year and a half ago or something like that. So,
okay, hand it over then. Hand over the card.
Yeah, I'm handing it over. Damn it! I prepared for this too. Damn it!
So season 3 sounds like it's another strong run. Season 4 is set 18 months after that. Begins at 7 a.m. Jack must save the lives of his new boss, Secretary of Defense James Heller, and Heller's daughter Audrey Raines, with whom Jack is romantically involved. Spoiler alert! When they are kidnapped by terrorists. However, Habib Marwan uses this as a disguise to launch further attacks against America, and Jack is forced to use unorthodox methods to stop him, which results in long-term consequences for both Jack and the U.S. So, Carl, I'm dying to know, what kind of crazy stuff does he do? What's so unorthodox?
I mean, he just does what he. This season makes me heavy because we love Heller. That guy is great. We love his daughter. We love the love that Jack has for her. But like I said, like everybody Jack knows, you either wind up dead or in prison. And again, this really isn't an exception. In fact, I believe Jack gets his beloved in this. I think it's this season. Gets her. It's either this one or the next one. Gets her tortured by the Chinese. Because of I think it's the next season off the heels of what he does of what he does in this one here, but yeah, Heller is he's great. So he doesn't really do anything except kick all the ass and kill all the bad guys to try to like protect Heller, because that's his new gig. I don't think in this season he's working for CTU. He's working for Heller as his security.
I see.
And, well, he got fired because Jack got addicted to drugs. What?
What?
Yeah, he did. I know. But he got addicted to drugs. Somehow, he gets his life together, though. James Heller. I call him Jack. Jesus. James Heller. His daughter is a woman named Audrey Raines. We love her. She actually, she doesn't die. She comes back in the last, half a season I'm watching now. And, in fact, so does Heller. Comes back eventually as the president, which is awesome, but not for a very, very, very long time. But yeah, there's all sorts of crap in here. There was a train bombing that they used to kidnap Heller. There's they forcing down meltdowns of nuclear power plants. They steal a stealth fighter to try to get at Air Force One, and I think in this one they steal the nuclear football. Dude, shit goes crazy, man.
P.S. Did you know the nuclear football isn't shaped like a football? How disappointing.
Yeah, I know. I don't think sports analogies, but why don't we call it a basketball?
Exactly.
Why don't we call it a baseball? It's America's pastime. Apparently, having nuclear weapons is also America's pastime. Why not just make it the
shape of whatever you're calling it? I feel like if it ever came down to it, if it was in the shape of football, if the president can throw it to somebody else, I don't know.
You know, they have you seen the pilot episode to that Designated Survivor show?
I have. Yes, it was excellent.
I thought was the most hilarious thing is when they introduced. I don't remember his name. I just want to call him Jack Bauer. When they introduced Jack Bauer to the football.
Yeah.
Yeah, hilarious. But yeah, I was like, I'm wondering if that's really what it looks like, though.
It's an interesting. I need to get back to that show. So anyways, it sounds like season 4. We find Jack is upside down, but he's doing his best to make his way, and he's got to kick ass. So is this the beginning of where people stop dying once they know him, or does everybody die again?
Can you say, you cut out on me a little bit there. What was that last question?
Is this the beginning of where if you know Jack Bauer, you do not die, or does everybody die again in season 4?
Everybody dies or ends up in prison for the most part. So include Audrey, and so we get to season 5, and Audrey Raines, she winds up being tortured in relation to knowing Jack, and I'm trying to think I can't remember, was she's tortured by the Chinese or something. Yeah, she was tortured by the Chinese. He was imprisoned by them. So again, if you know Jack Bauer, you are going to end up in prison or dead. She doesn't die, but in season 5, she does end up being tortured by the Chinese.
Which might be worse depending on the torture. So season 5.
Yeah, the Chinese are short, deviant little people, I hear.
Season 5, set 18 months later. Jack is believed to be dead by everyone except a few of his closest friends. He is forced to resurface when some of those friends are murdered, and he is framed by terrorists with connections to the American government. The acquisition of nerve gas. Really? Nerve gas? Come on, guys. By the terrorists.
I know. They kind of they stepped up attack on the president, nuclear weapons, deadly virus. Nerve gas is pretty deadly. I don't know. You're stepping up the game. But season 5 is everybody's favorite season.
Yes. So the acquisition of nerve gas by the terrorists poses a new threat, and Jack discovers an insidious conspiracy while trying to stop those responsible. So, Carl, this was unanimously, in every article I read, cited as the best season, and it was the highest rated season. So tell me why. What makes season 5 so good?
Well, because shit goes crazy, man. So Palmer, dude, all right. Palmer is Jack's biggest fan. And President Palmer is maybe the only person Jack could really rely on. Even not president yet, even Heller, eventually, as much as he loves Jack, even has to say at some point, not yet, but eventually even says, you got to stay away from my daughter because you're the most dangerous person. You're like nuclear material and you're going to kill everybody around you. So the only person I think, there's two. The only two people who've really stood by Jack through everything you're talking about so far was really Palmer and then Almeida. Now, anybody who works with Jack just reluctantly does whatever he tells him, because if you don't, he's just going to shoot you in the leg or something. But President Palmer's the president. Almost always sides with Jack eventually. President Palmer, yeah, he dies. It's in the first episode. You're
so everybody that knows Jack does die. Yes.
Well, President Palmer dies. Yeah, so it was like the and also too like the other guy he can count on, Tony Almeida, he eventually dies. Almeida's wife, Michelle, eventually dies. Everybody dies, man. It's bad. I think Jack in this one gets handed over to the Chinese, so even Jack goes to prison and gets tortured for knowing Jack at some point. It's crazy, man. We've been introduced I think we were introduced to this guy in the previous season. I think Bill Buchanan, great guy, at least for right now he lives, but yeah, he eventually dies. And Chloe O'Brien, it's actually a pretty good standout season for her character and her I think they're still married. Yeah, her husband Morris, he's a great character too, very flawed human being. But yeah, everything kind of goes crazy, man. Jack goes to prison. Everybody dies, dude. It's dark. You kind of figure like, wow, this is the way like the show would end, because where the hell else do you go from that?
Wow. So it's intense. Is there anything?
It is intense.
Is there anything aside from just like what happens in the episodes? Is there something about the production value, the acting performances? Like what sets this apart, or is it really just that we've invested all this time and energy and the storytelling takes us to a new level? And that's why it was
mostly the storytelling. I would say that aside from Chloe O'Brien's character, I wouldn't necessarily say that anybody's acting ability here is more standout than what happened before. For the most part, I think that like the biggest angles in character development you've for the most part seen already. In the previous season, Audrey Raines, great character, but you really get the standout feeling for her acting when, you know, she's really figuring out, you know, who Jack is. Because when she meets Jack, Jack is doing security for her dad. She doesn't know Jack, the counter-terrorist guy. Well, she gets a really good up-close look at what Jack does to people when Jack needs to do stuff to people to get information, including torturing, you know, former friends of hers or former lovers and things like that. So you get this, like, her character, and you get all, like, the great introduction to her acting, like, right then. Like, that's the peak of it. Jack, you get, I think, the best out of Jack, like that initial, like everything that Jack Bauer can do and be done in that second season when he's like the most, up until now, the most broken that he could be. He's in revenge mode because someone killed his wife. He's in estranged mode because, you know, he's like estranged from his daughter and things like that. Tony Almeida, you get, in this one, for Tony Almeida, you get a great sense of his acting here because in the course of this episode, his wife dies, and he gets kind of off the rails there. And then at the end of the episode, you know, he dies. We get introduced to Buchanan, but again, his breakout thing for me, I think, happens a little bit later. So this show, honestly, it was really the plot points. Everybody dies. Like everybody Jack knows is like everything's crumbling it down on the guy. And at the end of it, he gets carted off to prison. He gets handed over to the Chinese. Very tragic. The power in this season is the fact that they left it like this was the first time you're like, I have no idea what the hell is really going on, and I like really have to, like, it's not that self-contained. It's really open-ended. Like I really have to see like what happens in the next season to really get an idea of what's actually going on here.
Well, and so go ahead.
No, still that gritty, dry production value. This might be everybody's favorite season, probably for all like the intrigue and everything that happens. People count season 6 out a lot, and we're going to get to that here in a second. Season 6 is, again, it's not my favorite, but it's still an awesome season.
So season 6, set 20 months later, features Jack. He is released after being detained in a Chinese prison following the events of season 5, like you just outlined. Terrorists who hold a vendetta against Jack plot to set off suitcase nuclear devices in America. Scary. Later, Jack is forced to choose between those he loves and national security when the Chinese set their sights on sensitive security that could trigger a war between the U.S. and Russia. So I'm assuming Jack chooses the U.S. and not the people he loves, or does he choose the people he loves, or does it not matter because everybody dies?
Jack, how do I put this? Jack always chooses the United States. for the most part. But the life really does seem to be shitting on Jack. So we finally get Jack back. He wants to get back with Audrey. He can't because his dad says, her dad says, "No way, Jose, you suck. Just stay away from her." Bear with me here. And this one, so the big plot of this one, right? The big thing that you want to figure out into this one, because it was very open-ended, was what happens to Jack, and then we do. He gets to the Chinese, and we eventually get him back. There was like a deal involved. He can't get back with Audrey because Heller says, you're dangerous, you suck. But this is where we finally start figuring out there is a very large conspiracy that kind of carries over to many subsequent seasons, in very small ways, but in very big ways, of exactly how Palmer's... how Palmer was killed, exactly what happened to have Palmer killed, what's really up with this Charles Logan guy, who is now he's the former president now because he was involved in the plots of the last one, but he had a hand in this, in some of these recent attacks and Palmer being killed. So Jack is pretty much in full swing, of course, trying to figure all this out. We extra special fall in love with a character named Aaron Pierce, who's a Secret Service agent. We love that guy. You know what? I don't think Aaron Pierce ever dies. I think Aaron Pierce is like the one guy that we like who somehow manages to live through the whole show. It's not the... Because you're kind of, how do I put this? You stop getting super breakout performances from anybody pretty much from here on. And that's not to say that they're doing bad jobs, but we're not really getting great development or real differences of these characters right now for a while. It's a good story. We're uncovering conspiracies here, but this is where the show does start to lose a little bit of its steam, which is kind of stupid to say because compared to most shows and most seasons of most shows, this is a fantastic run and this is a fantastic thing to watch. But just compared to what we've seen for like you've gotten the 5 of the best seasons of television history all like in a row. And so it's kind of, I guess, hard to kind of just keep topping that over and over again. And they killed off everybody like in the last one. Like by now you've got Jack, Heller, who, they're going to be on the outs, and his former lover, Audrey, who, again, they're going to be on the outs. And then you've got not many holdovers except, again, Chloe O'Brien, who we love from the other, prior seasons.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's what we're seeing right now with The Walking Dead is it's hard to maintain a high level of excellence 7 seasons into any show, especially when you have a lot of turnover in your main cast, because we as the audience become attached to people. And I think as a defense mechanism, whether it's real life or fantasy, I mean, you can only deal with so much loss before you start to like kind of distance yourself from something. And so, yes, you could only watch a cast get slaughtered over and over again before you start to lose interest in the events.
Yeah, and it happens. I think my wife and I were watching this on a blitz. So like when we binge watched like each season, we probably went from seasons 1 through 5. This is going to sound kind of stupid, but I'll bet we did it in just a matter of a couple months, just to be completely frank with you. Man, we were like, maybe a few months. We were hooked. We took a break. Like halfway through 6. We're like, okay, we've watched one of like the heaviest handed shows that we've ever seen for that long. So we kind of took a break on it. I think we watched this, like half of it we binged, and then the other half we just kind of like trailed out. It's got Cal Penn in it for a few episodes. Really interesting watching him play this, this kind of this terrorist, I guess. So he did a really good job there. But other than that, no real breakout performances. It's good to watch, but we start losing a little steam.
So that brings us to Redemption. So set 3.5 years later, Jack finds himself caught up in a military coup in the fictional African nation of Sangala. Militants are being provided assistance from the officials within the United States, where Allison Taylor is being sworn into office as president. Wow, female president, good for them. Due to the 2007 writer's strike, season 7 was delayed a whole year to bridge the 1.5-year gap between seasons. Redemption was produced. It aired in 2008. So what is Redemption? Not a season. Is it a companion piece? Is it a movie? What was it?
Redemption is a decent film. It does feel it's got the production value of a film, but it definitely does feel like a two-parter 24 episode. Jack is just he can't go back to the United States.
He's so it's 2 hours long. I see. It's like it's not a whole season.
Yeah. No. It's a movie. So he is essentially exiled himself here. He's trying to make right, the things that he might have done for all the right reasons that maybe weigh heavy on him. It's actually pretty good. It's a really good performance for him because he's not on 10 the whole time. There's a lot of this more human him and less I got to get everything done thing going on. Essentially, when this whole thing breaks out in Sangala, he is trying to get these people and these kids to the American embassy where he believes that they will be safe. And upon getting there, they essentially, because he's a big deal, Washington, and again, sign of the times, Washington's all up on this thing with torture. Well, we've got this American hero who breaks all the laws to get things done. Do the ends justify the means? They want Jack, Congress or the Senate, they want Jack back, right? They want him back good. And essentially, upon getting everybody to the embassy, it's like, hey, we'll only let those in if you come in. And then when you come in, you're going to get arrested and you're going to get sent back to Washington. And that's essentially exactly what happens. And ultimately, good, and this whole Sangala thing comes back in the actual next season in a way that's incredibly interesting. A lot of people I don't think are very into this next season. I am super into this next season, and there's a couple reasons why. Couple breakout characters in it. All right, one breakout character, but a breakout character that we love, like we really love. So
that does bring us to season 7. So it's set just a mere 65 days after the end of Redemption. Jack is assisted by the FBI and covert operatives when the firewall for America's federal computer infrastructure is breached by the same people responsible for the conflict in Sangala. Jack must uncover corruption within President Taylor's administration, which has allowed the Sangalans to raid the White House and capture Taylor. She is later blackmailed by a fictional private military company in an attempt to release biological weapons on U.S. soil. So you are correct. The show was kind of the beginning of a rating slide for the show. It's still doing well, but it's no longer in double-digit ratings like it was before. What do you like so much about season 7, and where does it stack?
Well, let me tell you some of the things I hate about season 7.
Okay.
Not the idea of a woman president here, but to be completely frank with you, this character just sucks. Wishy-washy. I don't really like the acting. Very kind of stiff. But again, is kind of the sign of the times, though. She toes this line of, we have to be a world leader, but we can't resort to torture, things like that. So Jack Bauer is he's kind of on trial or there's a Senate committee, using him or grilling him. I don't know if he's actually on a criminal trial yet, but they're using this guy as the monument for wrong things for the right reasons ain't going to work no more. And, there's a senator trying to make a name for himself. CTU's been disbanded over, use of torture and the other things that they've had to do to get things done. So this actually centers around the FBI. We get introduced to a wonderful character named Renee Walker. Renee Walker, you will love, and you will think this is the one, right? This is the one person, right, that Jack's going to know besides his daughter who might just make it, right? This is the one that won't go to prison. Hey, they might even fall in love. And she's played by a wonderful actress named Annie Wersching. So Annie Wersching is a television veteran. She's been in pretty much everything. She's been in Castle. She's going to be, this is exciting, they're doing a Marvel show for The Runaways, which if anybody doesn't know, and I didn't, I had to look this up myself, but The Runaways was a series where of these kids who find out that their parents are all supervillains. So she's going to be in that show. They've announced it to come out in 2018. She's in The Vampire Diaries, which isn't my thing. I'm more of a supernatural guy, but she does really good in it. She's been in Blue Bloods, all sorts of TV shows. Her character, Renee Walker, is one of the most exciting plots about, I'll stop rambling, one of the most exciting plots about this season is that they pulled Jack out of the Senate because this crap's going down and we need this guy right now. And we don't need him to be an agent, but we need him and some of his information. And Renee Walker brings him in at the chagrin of her boss at the FBI. And she slowly starts to realize that to get this kind of a job done, you've got to be a little less like the FBI and a little more like Jack, and that's not what she's like. And it kind of gets tugged that direction over the course of the season. And Jack gets on the lam, kind of in the middle of it, and she's got to kind of toe that line for a bit. And you kind of figure, oh, really, we're just going to replace her with a female Jack? No, it's not that. And I don't know how else to describe it. She's her character all in and of herself, and she holds her own real good. She's one of my favorite characters in the show. Tony Almeida's not dead. What? Tony Almeida's a terrorist? Double what? So he comes back. Dude's not dead. As far as Jack knows, has betrayed him big time and betrayed the country big time. And what? He's not a terrorist, but he's working with Bill Buchanan and Chloe O'Brien from disbanded CTU, and they're trying to like reverse engineer this plot to hold the nation hostage over the Singala crisis. And Jack's back in league with them. Holy crap! Wait a minute, what? No, he's really in for himself, trying to uncover this conspiracy so he can kill the guys who killed his wife. Crazy, man. This season is insanely underrated, and the roller coaster it takes you on, like Tony Almeida is like your favorite ancillary character up to this point, and like now he's like your least favorite, but he's your favorite again, and now you just want to kill him, dude. This season is a roller coaster, very much worth watching, very underrated.
All right, so that brings us to season 8. Which is set 18 months after the events of Season 7. Jack is brought in by CTU to uncover a Russian plot to assassinate Islamic leader Omar Hassan during peace negotiations with the U.S. president. Russia's contingency plan involves engineering a dirty bomb, which Islamic extremists threaten to detonate unless Hassan is handed over. Jack seeks retribution for personal losses suffered after Charles Logan convinces Taylor to cover up these crimes to protect the peace agreement. Jack finds himself at odds with both the Russian and American governments. So this is an interesting idea that he's kind of on the outskirts of everybody. What kind of retribution is Jack seeking?
Jack is essentially, how do I put this? Here's the thing. All right, so he's not seeking, like, all right, so I'm trying to have a think where they threw in the retribution thing for. What happens is at the end of the previous season, everything with Jack is hunky-dory. This season, and I'll go into some reasons why in a moment, this season is the only one that I consider a true dud. Maybe something I don't necessarily consider good as a whole, but everything is working out good for Jack. He's gonna move in with his daughter and her daughter's kid and her daughter's husband, and they all get along. And you think life got back to normal, but then all of a sudden, a former asset that Jack used to use and run shows up at his door with like a bullet hole in him. He's trying to get the CTU to let the government know of a plot in exchange, of course, for medical attention and immunity. And so Jack gets caught up in all this bull crap to get that done, to get him to CTU. And he gets to CTU and he's like, okay, I'm out. And he can't be out. He can't. Like, he just keeps getting pulled back in and in and in. I think I know the retribution they're talking about, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. First thing I want to talk about is, so this season has it's not good. It's for many reasons, it's not good. But here's the thing. It's got a lot of great actors in it. Arlo Glass is a character played by John Boyd. Now, John Boyd, he took over kind of a role in a show called... I'm totally losing my mind here. He's in a show called Bones. So a very big character from a show called Bones dies in that show, and this winds up being a character that kind of like takes that character's spot. So they write this other guy off the show, and then he kind of fills in. He's great. He's great on that show. I've not seen him in anything else except 24. He's awesome. He helps make Bones even more of a show worthwhile watching. There's another actress in there. Her name is Katie Sackhoff. I hope I'm not doing her name too wrong, but it's Sackhoff. I don't know what else to say. She plays a character named Dana Walsh. The character in this episode, or in this show, it's a good character, but it's not completely, I don't think, super well done. But she rocks, though. This actress, she plays a great character in a show called Longmire. That's an excellent show. Doesn't get enough attention, I don't think, that it deserves. And she herself is great in it. So there's another character in it named Brian Hastings. He's a director of CTU. He's played by a guy named McKelty Williamson. He plays an amazing character in a show called Justified. We love him in it. Freddie Prinze Jr. is also in this, plays an agent named Cole Ortiz. Again, he's awesome. He's awesome in this role. He also has a role in the show Bones as a CIA agent, and he's great. He's great on TV. How this became such a dud...
I was just going to ask you that because you just told me all the good things about it.
I know, and it's good, and it's not like the plot is bad. I think it's the president, for the most part, that ruins it, and the subplots aren't all that interesting. Dana Walsh works for the Russians, only, like, they do it in a fashion where, you know, they write it in a way where, well, if you write things this way, anything's possible. They don't give you any real, like, intriguing reason to suspect her, and not because she's so good at what she does, just because they never wrote it in a way, I don't think, that said, this is somebody who's, like, anybody could have, like, nobody could have guessed that she was somebody that could have been involved in this conspiracy, and it takes the fun away. And usually, if you're going to do something like this, you know, like that first season, you're going to find out, you're wondering, who is it? Who is it? And you can start making guesses, and some people are going to get it right, and some people are going to get it wrong, but they gave you enough that, you know, you could say, I can't believe I missed that. I totally could have caught that. When you find out Dana Walsh's turns, you're like, nobody would have gotten that because there was no hint of it. Things like that. The subplots in there aren't all great. The subplot that is great, though, Renee Walker, she gets back in the mix, but after that last season, man, she didn't hang so well. So she's going through some mental issues. She's tried to commit suicide. Jack, by the end of the last episode, had become enamored with her, and you could tell that they kind of tried to have a thing, but it wasn't going to work. Well, they got to bring her back because she's got prior involvement with the Russians, and the Russians are real big in on this. And man, she's crazy, dude. She cuts a guy's hand off and everything, man. She rocks this season. Nearer to the middle of it, she does get shot and killed by the Russians, and Jack goes nuts. He's had it. In this season, Jack has had always doing like the right thing, the wrong thing for the right reason. Now he's about to do like just like the total wrong thing for the wrong reason. He is going to go after the people that killed Renee Walker. He's going to go after the Russians and any Americans involved, and he's not going to try to get evidence. He's not going to try to put him in prison. And Chloe O'Brien, you know, nearer to the end's got to kind of talk him out of it. And the president, Taylor, she's kind of okay in the last season. She just sucks in this one. Her character doesn't make a whole lot of sense. What her character does doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Charles Logan comes back. His character is freaking awesome because you hate that guy. And he continues to make you hate him. He's such a good actor. He plays that Logan role so well, and you'll grow to know this. He's like one of the most hated characters you'll ever see on TV. He's consistent with that. The president, the foreign president that they're trying to save, you know, you don't really care about that guy. You care a lot about his wife and his daughter, but ultimately there are just so many things about the writing in this that kind of fall flat, that it's almost like they're relying on 24, the name and the gimmick, and the characters to carry it without super duper fantastic writing, which is what you've gotten up until this point, was just solid, fantastic writing on top of all the good acting and the good production. So I would say that this is more of a dud, mostly because I just don't think the writing's up to snuff.
Well, it's you're not alone in that opinion. For the first time since its premiere, the ratings were, you know, they're still respectable, but they're almost half of what they were when the show was at its peak. So everybody collectively decided that, you know, that was the end of the show. They wanted to end it while it was still, you know, respectable, and that, you know, that seems like you know, it sounds like from what you're saying that it had kind of run its course. Now, that being said, 4 years later, the show comes back, and we've got another addition to the 24, like, I guess, overall arc, and that is Live Another Day. And it's set 4 years later in real time, so it begins finding Jack as a fugitive in London trying to stop an assassination attempt on President James Heller by terrorist Margot Al-Harzi. Later, Jack must prevent an old enemy and a Russian diplomat from sparking a war between the U.S. and China. Now, I remember this was a big deal. I remember they did a ton of press for this. It was a 12-episode run, so not your 24-episode season like the rest. And but it didn't do very well. And so I remember this was kind of a one and done. What's your thought? Have you finished Redemption?
I have not. Well, Redemption was the movie. Live Another Day is
yes.
Yeah. No, so we are roughly halfway through it, and I like it. We get so pretty much after 8, Bauer's got to go. Man, he can't stay around. He almost tries to assassinate a president. The actual president admits trying to cover up a conspiracy, and shit goes crazy. So he's got to blow out of town. Chloe O'Brien helps him. Chloe O'Brien eventually goes to prison. She winds up losing her kid and her husband at some point due to some sort of a tragic accident. So she moves overseas and she becomes this hacker for this group that, very sign of the times, taking information from secret governments that shouldn't have this stuff and releasing it freely. A very good conversation on the difference between a hero and a traitor, Mm-hmm. And then Jack, of course, he's been on the lam, and he gets back in the mix because he hears that there is a plot against President Heller. What? President Heller? Yeah, so Heller's the president now. And Audrey Raines is involved, and she's got a fiance who is played by, I don't know his name. I know him, Joshua from Friends. He played one of Rachel Green's boyfriends in some Friends episodes, and that's how I know the guy. So there's a plot against President Heller. Jack not being officially a part of anything. He's using Chloe. He's using other aspects of CQ.
So his old connections, basically.
Yeah. And he's really leveraging any and all of any friendships or friends that he's ever used to have to try to figure this out. And essentially, it's a 12-episode run to try to save, I guess, this plot against President Heller. It involves very sign of the times. It involves drones, America's use of drones, other civilized countries like the UK not being as into our constant use of drones. It has, what's his name? Carlos Boyega. Is that Carlos Boyega, the guy who played Finn in Star Wars? Mm-hmm. Carlos?
Yeah.
He's in it. He's freaking awesome, and he's only in like 4 episodes. He doesn't have like the most major screen time in it, but it's good. He's good in it. We get Jack and Audrey reunited in here at some point. Who she's not, she's finally recovered from her stint of being tortured, at the hands of the Chinese and everything. So, I'm halfway through it. I'm really excited to finish it. I don't know if people liked this or not. I'm getting a kick out of it. In fact, I kind of wish it was more than 12 episodes.
So, and then that brings us kind of full circle back to where we begin with the new Legacy, which, as you kind of outlined earlier, follows Eric Carter, who's an ex-Army Ranger and is currently running. So I guess where Legacy's going to sit, I guess, remains to be seen. It looks like it's doing okay. From your first impressions of Legacy, does it make sense to reboot this show without Jack Bauer? Are you interested in watching a Jack Bauer less 24?
I was not, because Jack Bauer became kind of like a superhero. That being said, multiple people have played Captain America, have been like multiple different human beings have been Captain America. So yes, you can have multiples of this ultimate do whatever needs to get done and walk that line. We love those characters, right? Clint Eastwood plays those characters. Every awesome like movie leading man and who's done action movies has played that character, right? So we love it. So no, Kiefer's not the only one who can do it. So it does make sense. I think enough time has gone by that nobody's really been able to kind of really copy this espionage and counterterrorism thing nearly as well, and especially not in such a long-running TV show. So I give them kudos for doing it. The half, like a 12-episode run of 24 with Kiefer makes a little sense. A lot of time has gone by. Ratings were kind of down from the previous season. You're just doing something special. I think they were trying to make a movie. Like, they were trying to do crazy stuff, man. They were trying to make like a crossover movie with Jack Bauer and John McClane, and we're gonna make some sort of a crossover Die Hard flick or something. They were going through some crazy fucking ideas, man. So a 12 episode run kind of seemed like an okay thing to do. This, I'm kind of disappointed, because this 24 Legacy is only going to consist of these 12 episodes, and I think if you're going to call it 24 and you're starting something fresh, I kind of expect you to have the cojones to make it a whole 24 episodes. And if you're not gonna, I'm kind of scratching my head thinking, then what are you trying to are you trying to restart something? Mm-hmm. You know, if not, what are you doing?
Thoughts on on that first episode on the pilot?
It wasn't very well watched if you consider, like, you know, because it aired like post Super Bowl, right? And it was one of the lowest, if not the lowest, like viewerships. I think like in the last 12 years or something like that for post Super Bowl somethings. And I think that and one of those was really low was Alias, I think, back, I don't know, like 2002 or something. And Alias was freaking an awesome show. So that might not say anything. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah. So, and again, I'm not saying that means anything, but I liked it. It was intense. I think they set up a plot really good. I think you have two characters in this, though, on the onset that are willing to break the rules and do whatever it takes. And I don't necessarily know if that's going to work, because you've got, you know, the former director, you know, kind of taking over CTU while she's in there to kind of assist our Army Ranger in uncovering this plot, and they both seem to be willing to do whatever it takes. And I don't know that seems like too many. That seems like too many of the extreme character trying to walk the line. So I don't know how it's going to work. But what I saw was good. You know, it's got our Army Ranger character. He's got a brother. They're on complete opposite sides of ideology for how to get from one end of life to the other. So that's really interesting. I'm excited. He's a married guy. He's not like Jack. He kind of is, but like Jack was a married guy for a season, and then of course he was a crazy borderline loner because he can't coexist with other people for the next one. So we'll see. I'm intrigued. I'll watch more episodes of it. I haven't seen anything that made me say this blows.
So wow. So we just took like 10 days of, you know, the most intense, you know, things that could ever happen to somebody, and summed it all up in an hour. So kudos to you, because you did most of the work. I guess that leaves me with I'm still super stoked, and I want to continue watching this. So it sounds like there's a lot going on. I typically, you know, 10 years ago I would have said I don't want to watch a show where everybody dies, but you know, the rules have kind of changed. The Walking Dead is kind of one of those. It's a similar thing. You got a main character that just gets shit on over and over again, but somehow you're compelled, because he's compelled to keep going, you know, and so that's kind of, as long as he's here. That being said, kind of bringing it all back to Legacy, there, you know, the spinoff, the sister show that The Walking Dead has, like, it doesn't work, and I've struggled, because they're 3 seasons in now. I think what it doesn't work about is because I don't want to watch that show without that main character. And I just suspect, you know what I mean? Like, you become so attached to him, and I get that everything has to end, but that's okay, you know, and I'm not, you know, some things work as a concept, and an ensemble can survive typically one or two ER is a good example of this. You know, ER survived the main characters leaving, but shows like, I mean, The Walking Dead or 24, or, you know, these shows that are kind of driven by this, like, archetype character, you can't just remove them and expect everything to just be hunky-dory. You know, it's a lot to over.
Well, they're not really ensemble shows. I mean, there's an ensemble of people in them, but the main it's not like Law and Order, right? Where
exactly
everybody's got this equal amount of screen time, and you can have 3 of them and they work. Or NCIS, where, you know, we all have our favorite of the ensembles, but there's no main character in NCIS. I can watch all 2 or 3 of them and think, you know, this is good. Walking Dead, it really does kind of have a main character. 24 really did have a main character. They never let anybody stick around for it to be considered like an ensemble thing. There is a focal point, and everything revolves around that person. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like removing Mulder from X-Files. Okay, I guess try to keep that going, see what happens. So yeah, we'll see what happens with Legacy. I'm holding my expectations back a little bit because as a geek, I know how I can get and get really excited for more. But you know what? I really didn't necessarily want more 24. I wanted more Jack freaking Bauer.
No, I gotcha. So that being said, Jack Bauer, a.k.a. Kiefer Sutherland, one and the same at this point. What's the future for Kiefer? I know we talked about the Flatliners coming out this year on a previous podcast, which we're both excited about. What do you know? What do you have to add about the sequel to the 1990 film that was, I'm assuming this remake, it stars him, but obviously not in the same role, or maybe it's the same character, but 30 years later. What do you know about this plot?
It's not. So So I don't know a lot about it because, again, this is one of those things where real rumors that I've been able to follow kind of stopped midway last year, and it's been kind of mum. And again, we're not insiders. I don't got connections, and I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody who knows anybody. I don't know anybody to ask. So I can just hunt down rumors the best way that everybody else can. But I thought it was going to be a remake. But now the last rumor I heard, which was, again, midway through last year, was that this was going to be a sequel. Which...
Very cool.
But so a sequel of the movie with the same name. Maybe the names work. I'm fairly certain Kiefer plays the exact same character. So he plays Nelson. I don't think it's gonna be a sequel. I don't know if they have everybody else who was slated for it. I don't think they have. I don't know if Kevin Bacon's gonna be in it. I don't know if Julia Roberts is gonna be in it. The only people I think that I know are really gonna be in it are I know Kiefer's in it. I think they do have a good chunk of the cast. Kiefer's in it. Diego Luna, he's great, so we can't say too many bad things about Diego Luna. He's going to be in it. I don't really recognize anybody else in it to a great extent, so we'll see. I don't know what it's going to be about. I don't know how much of a sequel it's going to be, but I'm fairly certain that they've made it a sequel by now.
And then, of course, Designated Survivor, which premiered earlier this fall, and it's similar in theme and scope, I think, at least at the onset to 24, but a completely different look for, Jack Bauer, who's now the president, who has got a different personality, who's maybe not as prepared for his role, and is having to really dig deep to find the strength to kind of overcome. It's more of the everyman thrust into an extraordinary situation that is interesting and a good take. I'm glad to see him back on TV. I need to get around to watching more of this show. I'm not sure if it's been renewed for a second season or not. I don't know if you have anything to add on that, but what are your thoughts on the Designated Survivor?
I liked it. I saw the pilot. And if anybody doesn't know, a Designated Survivor is the person that, when the president gets elected, and is it during the State of the Union where he gets together with everybody's there. Everybody's in the same
anytime
building.
There's an event that pulls together the entire government, they set aside a member of the government so that there can still be
if that building is blown up or destroyed, we have one person in the line of succession, so we don't have to we're not leaderless. In this case, they picked is he the director of housing and urban development or something like that? Yeah. They picked the guy who, works on programs to save people's homes if they can't pay their home loan. And and sure enough in this, was it the Congress building? Whatever building that they're doing, they kablooey. Total. The Wile E. Coyote Looney Tuned the crap out of that building, and so Kiefer Sutherland is now the president, and Cal Penn also in it. Cal Penn was awesome, and unprepared, very different character. He's not sure-footed. He doesn't know everything he's going to do the next moment he's going to do it. He's not aggressively yelling "damn it" left and right and torturing people. He's trying to figure out, how do I become the president of the United States? I saw the pilot and I'm hooked. And like a true TV geek, I'm watching too many shows, so I can't just come back to this one without finishing some other things. And even after some of the things I want to finish, I want to get on The Walking Dead because I've seen like 6 episodes of it and I want to see more. So I don't know how long it's going to take me to get to this. I really want to though. It's awesome. That pilot episode was fantastic. And again, Kal Penn, not to understate that guy, but he seems like he's going to have a real huge role in this too.
Before we get to our final thoughts, I wanted to just share this with you. There's this piece of dialogue. So in this latest episode, last week's episode was the mid-season premiere for The Walking Dead, and there's a character by the name of Fat Joey that gets brutally beaten to death. And so our heroes have stolen a walkie-talkie so they can listen in on the the evil saviors and their comings and goings. And while they're listening in, driving around, they listen in and they hear what they're broadcasting. The saviors are broadcasting a funeral for Fat Joey, and the character Negan is eulogizing his fallen comrade, and it's like the classic piece of dialogue. It's just so hilarious. He's basically like, and folks, without Fat Joey, Skinny Joey is just Joey, and that's a damn shame.
I could picture him saying that too because I know the actor. That's hilarious.
I'm like, what the fuck? It's so well timed. That dude is such a good actor, and he's such a good addition to that show.
He is. I'm glad to see him get a show where he has more of a lead because man, he was fantastic for what little screen time we got of him with Supernatural, and I'm glad. When you said he was in this season, and we're so many seasons off, he was one of the reasons why I'm like, you know what, I really do think I have to get on seeing this one because he is good. I want to see more of that show for sure.
So now that we've kind of run through it from top to bottom, beginning to end, and recent to the beginning. We've done this thing every which way. What is your thoughts on the overall arc of this show of 24?
If you can go seasons 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You've got in any given order 5 of the best seasons I think of television, of what like television history has to offer. Like it is Sopranos good.
Mm-hmm.
It is top notch. Everything else after that is still worth watching. It might not be the best TV you've ever seen. It's going to be better than most. If you've never checked it out and you're looking for another like exciting, intense, like heart pumping action drama, this might be the one to go visit if you hadn't done it before. If you're a geek and you'd like to rewatch things every so often and you love this show, well, you're probably going to be doing it anyway. And I hope that our conversation here spurs you to want to watch more of it.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's impressive. I like doing, we do a lot of episodes where we talk about things we're both super into, which is awesome. It breeds good dialogue. But, this kind of thing is nice because it spurs a different kind of conversation. And I feel like, again, this podcast is a really cool way to catalog these conversations. Some of the best times I've ever had in my life, we've whether we're out grabbing a bite to eat or something, we'd get on one of these topics and, oh man, I'll tell you about that show, and then we just an hour later I'm like, I gotta watch that show. So this was cool. I really appreciate it, the rundown, and I will tell you that I'm hooked. So we will be revisiting this topic. I don't know if we'll revisit it at the very end after watching 12, seasons or whatever it is, or maybe I'll just watch the first season and we'll kind of touch upon it again. But
I know if you're going to watch that whole first season, I just know that I'm going to get random texts from you when something crazy happens because your mind will be blown. As a TV watching veteran, I know you are, and I know that you're not hard to surprise. Man, some crap's going to surprise you.
Well, and that's a good point. I do like to be surprised, and it is harder and harder, this golden era of television, quote unquote, that we're in. It's, the bar has been raised that I don't know about you, but like when I'm on Netflix and like we'll try a show and there's, even some of these Netflix originals and stuff. If it doesn't grab me 1 or 2 episodes, I'm done with it because I feel like there's so much good stuff that I haven't even got to yet that I do not want to waste my time watching mediocre. It's not like back in the day you had 4 networks or 3 networks and there was only so much television and you just watched what was on because it was all that was on. But that's not the case anymore. And I like that. I think it's good for everybody.
Oh yeah, and you had great shows back in the day that took a while to catch on. I mean, the chemistry between Mulder and Scully when X-Files, like in that first season, it was slow going. I'm not sure how much steam a show like X-Files would get these days. Great show, and maybe like season 2 forward had like the best chemistry between two actors, an actor and an actress on TV that I've seen ever. But that first season, it's a little weird. It's a little slow going. And these days, you've got like a bajillion science fiction shows. So yeah, it's got to grab pretty quick. I saw this. I saw the pilot, the first 2 episodes recently for a show called the Santa Clarita Diet.
Yes.
You've heard buzz.
All right, so let's time out here real quick. Let's end this podcast with the Santa Clarita Diet because I've watched the whole thing. Hit me with what you're about to say.
Oh, you watched the whole thing?
Yeah. It's.
How long has it been on TV? How long has it been on Netflix?
Like a week.
You loser couch potato. I've watched the first 2 episodes. It was great, man. All right, Drew Barrymore is fantastic in that role. And Timothy Olyphant, a great actor. We've seen him in a couple episodes of The Office. Yes. We've seen him in Justified. Super standout. That guy's awesome. I watched the first 2 episodes, and I'm completely hooked.
It is Drew Barrymore. I read an interview with her recently. She was going through a tough time personally.
I'm in love with her.
She was coming out of a divorce, and she said she got this script last summer, and she read the script and said, "This is exactly what I need." And holy crap, does she own this role? I'm a big fan of sitcoms, and I'm a big fan of zombies, and I'm a big fan of kind of like your edgy, gory television, and this thing combines all of them in a blender with brains and does it perfectly. The show it's only 10 episodes. It's only 10 30-minute episodes, which I think is perfect. It doesn't overstay its welcome. The gimmick, the funniness doesn't wear off. It just gets more and more absurd. I will be curious to see. If they do more seasons. It kind of like doesn't have to. It's kind of like Stranger Things. I feel like they did it, and if the reception to it was good, then great. We'll do more. But if not, it's cool. It just stands on its own. But yeah, I definitely recommend Santa Clarita Diet. This is exactly what we were just talking about. You can only get a show like this on a format like this,
Absolutely.
So
for sure.
It's great. So I definitely recommend continuing to watch it. That being said, last week,
before we get too far off, I know that we know Drew Barrymore is a fantastic actress, and we know Timothy Olyphant is fantastic, obviously. I want to give a shout out to the actress Liv Houston who plays their daughter.
She's awesome.
I don't really know her from anything, but so natural, so great at like owning this role and delivering the dialogue. I don't know where she got her chops. I don't think she's been acting very long, but I think that she's going to be someone to watch in like the next coming years in TV and film for a bit because she's fantastic in this show.
No, she's great. And what's really cool about the show is it kind of draws upon a lot of different things, but it plays with them in a tongue-in-cheek way. But by the end of it, it is its own thing as well, which is really cool. Like I could see them doing more with it. I love shows like this. I love edgy, quirky comedies that play with like what the rules and expectations are for the genre. So Drew Barrymore, God bless her. I'm so happy to see her back in something, and she is awesome.
Yeah.
And man, I just imagine going home and showering after some of those scenes. So I'm assuming you saw the second episode, so you've seen her take care of their real estate buddy that was giving her a hard time.
Oh God! I think I watched 3 episodes. I was thinking, oh great, the guy from Firefly. I get to see him in another show.
No.
Nope, not long.
Yeah.
And then there was a scene where they were gonna kill that pothead in the house, and they couldn't do it because Oliphant got too attached to the guy. It was hilarious. It was a good show, well written. I love it. Love the dialogue. I'm excited to see more of it.
Is there a catchphrase that Jack Bauer says, or something that we can end this podcast with? That is there can be only one, or do we just?
Oh, he's got a phrase, all right. Damn it! He says "damn it" a lot. Not just like that, but he says it a lot in a really gruff voice. In fact, I get disappointed when he doesn't say it.
Fair enough.
You know what? Anybody watching, go to YouTube. There is a video of him and all of his damn it's, and it's freaking forever long. It's great.
All right, guys. So that's going to conclude this week's podcast. We will see you again We will not see you again because that would be weird. We will hear, we will broadcast again into your ear holes at some point in the future. Awesome.
Oh, you are so creepy. Thank you for listening to Geek USA. Follow us on Twitter at Geek USA Podcast.